Now, before we get underway with the closing ceremony, I would like to take the time to acknowledge that we are on the lands of the Yuggera and the Turrbal people. And we are very fortunate enough this morning to have Ashley from the Nuku Yuggera to deliver a welcome to country. Thank you, Ashley. Round of applause for Ashley.
Thank you. For those who didn't hear earlier on, my name is Ashley Augusta and I'm a descendant of the Yuggera people. And for those of you who didn't hear earlier on, the Yuggera people are the local tribal group which occupy the Brisbane region and surrounding areas, stretching all the way from the mouth of the Brisbane River out to the Great Dividing Ranges at the foothills of the Warwick and Toowoomba Range, back down through to the Coolidge River and as far down south as the Logan River. It's our pleasure to be a part of something like this here today. And on behalf of our people, we'd like to welcome everyone here and by saying, and lastly, I'd like to say on behalf of our people, Yowai. Yowai means in our language, it's sad times now because we might be leaving soon. But one day we'll all meet each other again. And if not here on earth, then up in Berlin, up in God's country. So on behalf of our people, we'd like to say welcome and Yirira. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashley, for that beautiful welcome to country. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it goes without saying that we have such an incredible community here with us today. From ministers, councillors, members of parliament, to the police and the army. Mothers, daughters, sons, fathers, family members, and of course, friends. We all come from different walks of life, but we all gather here today for the same purpose: to end domestic and family violence once and for all. Now, this morning we have a fantastic lineup of speakers for you. And to kick us off, I'm going to invite to the stage the Honourable Curtis Pitt, who we thank immensely for hosting us here today at this beautiful location, Parliament House. Thank you, Curtis.
Good morning, everybody. Just so you know, I live just south of Cairns. This is cold. I want to acknowledge that we're starting today's proceedings on the land of Aboriginal people and thank them for their general custodianship of the land over countless generations. We are very fortunate in this country of ours to have two of the world's oldest continuing living cultures in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, whose lands, winds and waters we all now share. I have a list of acknowledgements and I will run through them because anyone who is willing to come out this morning deserves to be acknowledged if they're doing this. I do want to particularly pay tribute to the Honourable Shannon Fenderman, who is of course our Attorney General, but particularly the important aspect is that she's the Minister for Women and the Minister for the Prevention of Domestic and Family Violence. Thank you very much for being here, Shannon. To the Leader of the Opposition, David Christofolli MP, Amanda Cam, the Shadow Minister for the Prevention of Domestic and Family Violence, to a very, very strong advocate of this space, Jonty Bush, the member for Cooper, the Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Hegarty, Commanding Officer of the 1st Signal Regiment, to a very good friend of mine, the Commissioner of Queensland Police Service, Katarina Carroll. Thank you very much for being here. To Tracy Linford, Deputy Commissioner of the Queensland Police Service, Kat Sippleton, Stapleton, the CEO of Queensland Rail, Fiona Cunningham, the councillor in this region, Robert Reid, the founder of Darkness to Daylight, who I had a chance to talk to earlier, and he said he never thought he'd see this many people out for a walk this early in the morning. Vanessa Fowler, Co-Chair, Domestic and Family Violence Prevention Council, David Mackey, of course the Council Member and Director General of the Department of Justice and Attorney General, family members, of course we have so many people here. Particularly I want to notice that we have family members of Hannah Clark, Alison Baden Clay, Kelly Wilkinson, Bianca Faith Gibbon and Doreen Langham. Last but not certainly least, those of you who've walked this morning, who've done the participants who took part in the 3K and the 10K walks or runs this morning. My job is a really easy one, is to welcome you here to Queensland Parliament House, and you're on the speakers green. That's all of the speakers, it's not just me, but thank you for being here and hopefully you're enjoying all of the hospitality, the sausage sizzles, the coffee, but more importantly, you're all thinking about the same thing I am, and that is the difficulties that all of us face in our communities with the scourge of domestic and family violence. It is such a challenge. On average, 110 people die from domestic and family violence each year, right across our country. So today's event saw participants run the final kilometres of the 110 kilometre challenge whilst holding a candle, with each kilometre representing one of the lives lost. For one life lost they've left behind, every day is a reminder of course, those who've paid the ultimate price in this challenging space. Facing the harsh reality of domestic and family violence is one of the most important steps that all of us can do in dealing with it. And we know that some people are more at risk than others. But each May, Queensland marks domestic and family violence, and of course makes sure that we recognise and acknowledge that there are people out there who sometimes don't survive, but there are also people who do. And most of that is because of the things that all of us here today have come out to do. It's raising awareness and understanding that this is really, really important. I'll take this moment to share with you very quickly and a personal story. My father was a member of Parliament like I was. He did a range of things in public life. But he was also the son of an abuser. His father was a Queensland police officer. He had a position of authority, and it was an awful position that he had in terms of having pretty much free rein to do whatever he wanted to do. My father used to get locked in a watch house. He would get locked up most nights because he would try and stand up for his mum. It was an awful position to be in. But basically, once he got old enough, and he became a Golden Gloves boxer to actually try and stop that scourge of violence in his own home. And once he got big enough, strong enough, he knocked his dad out and said, never come back. It shouldn't have come to that, but that's what it was. So ultimately, he changed that cycle. I'm a very, very lucky man because I am not in an abusive home. I don't have that cycle. I have 3 wonderful children who will never actually face what he faced. But that is the story of everyone, I think, who is in this awful situation where all of us realise that our community has lots of challenges. And for me, I'm very, very lucky to not be someone who's been a product of that environment, but someone who's actually been someone who's been able to turn that story around. So thank you very much for being here this morning. It means a lot to me, it means a lot to so many people, of course, who are a part of this, but also ultimately it means a lot that we're all talking about this very, very challenging situation. And all of you are a big part of that story. Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis, and thank you for sharing that story. Well, next up, can you please welcome to the stage Jane Hedger, the Chair of Challenge TV.
Thank you, Jesse. And thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. We are so honoured to be here today in this amazing Meanjin lands, in this beautiful setting, with so many incredible, dedicated, fabulous supporters. And Mr. Speaker, I think what you've reminded us of this morning is that nearly everybody here today is running with a story. And in previous years, when we've done the overnight run, which we're hoping to do again next year, people through the night telling their stories at some of the stations has been one of the most powerful things I've ever been privileged enough to experience. Everybody knows somebody. Domestic and family violence affects nearly everybody in our community in some way, shape or form. In your family, in your neighbourhood, in your friends, in your workplace. And this is why we walk, and this is why we run, and this is why we are here, playing the long game of prevention, ultimately to end domestic and family violence. My job is to thank and acknowledge all of our speakers today, but Mr. Speaker, I think you've done a wonderful job of listing them all out for me. So I would like to thank you all for being here. This is our largest Darkest to Daylight so far. When we started it 9 years ago, we could not have imagined today. This morning has just been absolutely fabulous thing to participate. I got so excited I nearly ran in the 10K. And that's saying something. I think, I hope you are all going to enjoy the rest of the morning and take away with you today some of the incredible experiences that you've had. We've had more than 3,200 people sign up and more than 1,800 people registered for the event this morning, and we're pretty sure there's only a couple of them who stayed in bed. So what an amazing rollout. Thank you for coming out so early. We've also raised around about, I think, 387,546 was the last number I looked at. So keep those donations coming over the next couple of days. We are so close to our goal. It's very exciting. One of the things I did quickly want to talk to you about, we've teamed up this year with Queensland Government through the Department of Transport and Main Roads and the Domestic and Family Violence Prevention Council to deliver the event. And this partnership is so exciting. If you were on the 3K walk, I hope you had some great conversations. Some of those starters I've been using with family and friends over the last couple of weeks, and they've led to some really amazing conversations. Please take them back to your workplaces, take them back to your families, and continue the conversations, because conversations raise awareness, and awareness helps us prevent domestic and family violence. It was disappointing that we had to pivot from the 31st of May, but I think we've just had a bigger and better and more fantastic event. So thank you for hanging in there for the extra month with us. We just now have to keep going until we end this. So today we have a fabulous program. Invite the next few speakers along. Together we can make an impact. And thank you for coming to walk or run or roll or jog with us today. You are part of changing our world. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Well, we now welcome the Honourable Shannon Fentiman MP, who is not only the Attorney-General but also the Minister for Justice, Minister for Women and Minister for the Prevention of Domestic and Family Violence. Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you, everyone. Can I too start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Turrbal and Yagara peoples, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. A huge congratulations to each and every one of you for coming out today. Isn't it wonderful to be able to host Darkness to Daylight here at the Queensland Parliament and see this beautiful building lit up in purple? So a big thank you, Mr. Speaker, for hosting us. Rob, I think it's really special to have this event at Parliament, so I hope we can continue this wonderful hospitality. As Curtis mentioned, this event now has been going for 9 years, a huge testament to Rob, to Challenge DV, to each and every one of you. This is the largest crowd I have ever seen. It is so exciting because this is how we change our community. This is how we change the attitudes, the behaviours that underpin the cycle of violence. The impact of you being here today, the stories that we've shared. This is how we end domestic and family violence in Queensland. I wish we didn't have to, have a huge investment in changing the system so it's more trauma-informed and responsive to victims, because we could prevent it at the very start. Community events like this, where we really focus on prevention, the work we're doing in our schools with respectful relationships, this is how we end that cycle of violence that Mr. Speaker spoke about. So you being here today is so powerful. Thank you for getting up, for walking in the cold. This is how we end domestic and family violence. So please tell absolutely everyone in your life about this event. Try and bring even more people with you next year. To see so many of you here, to know that over 3,000 people have been part of this movement this year is so exciting. Thank you so very much for being part of it.
Thank you, Minister. Well, can I now invite to the stage Councillor Fiona Cunningham, the Civic Cabinet Chair for Finance and City Governance, and Councillor for Coorparoo Ward. Please make her feel welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I too would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. The dignitaries that are here today, ministers, police commissioner, thank you for being here to support such an important event. You know, when I got out of bed this morning, and I got out of bed, that's the first thing. I got out of bed, I didn't get out of my car, and I didn't get out of a tent. And there are so many women and children in our city and in our state who are faced with those very circumstances. So I felt how grateful it was that I was able to leave a home, leave a safe home, with a husband who loves me and children. And many of us here today do have families and are grateful for our families. But there are obviously many who aren't here today. And I pay particular tribute and have them in my thoughts. And I'm looking at you, Sue. Be strong, let's support each other and have the conversations to prevent violence in the first place. Thank you.
Well, we're very lucky to have with us today the Commissioner of Queensland Police, Katrina Carroll. Thank you, Katrina.
I have to have a chat to that MC. It's Katarina Carroll. That's okay, we'll talk after this. But before I start, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this wonderful event is taking place. And I also acknowledge elders past, present, emerging. To all the Darkness to Daylight sponsors, the team, the participants, distinguished guests, school students and staff, and the amazing team of volunteers, sincere congratulations for what you have achieved. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and thank you for having me here today. I sincerely thank you all for coming out to remember those who have lost their lives to domestic and family violence. I'm sure that you, like me, reflected this morning to think of them, their families, their friends, their colleagues, and the victim survivors and those whose lives are still being affected by domestic and family violence. It's incredible to see you all here, together to drive change that is so desperately needed. Darkness to Daylight proves that together we can make a difference and a change for the better. That change that starts with us all of us, together. Living free from violence is everyone's right, and reducing violence is a change that takes all of our efforts. DFB is undoubtedly one of the biggest challenges faced by my organisation when officers respond every 5 minutes. We did some figures recently and it was 300 occurrences a day across the state. That number has increased to approximately 340 a day and exponentially increases year in, year out. Our service is committed to learning and improving the way that we respond to TFB. Just yesterday, we have been reminded of the tragic death of Doreen Langham, and I acknowledge her family here today, and how we must make improvements and changes to better protect victims. Like Doreen's case, Hannah's, Callie Wilkinson, Alison's, and so many other victims of DFB, it is an incredibly tragic story. I acknowledge today parents, brothers, sisters, family, colleagues and friends of all of those victims. Everyone has the right to feel safe. DFB strips individuals of these rights. It is the repeated and purposeful behaviour, often over extended periods of time, that is intended to dominate and control. The QPS looks forward to the new ways of working resulting from the implementation of the Women's Safety and Justice Task Force recommendations. These recommendations call for us to hear her voice, to begin historic reform to keep her, your mother, your auntie, your sister, your daughter, your granddaughter, your great-granddaughter and your family safe. I can assure you that DFB will continue to be a strong focus for our workforce to keep her and those most vulnerable safe and free of domestic violence. This is a time of hope, a time that will see the strengthening of protections for victims and improvements to the systems that we work within. I know from your presence here this morning that you have heard her voice and that you are committed to changing attitudes and social norms that excuse or condone disrespect, sexual harassment and abuse, to saying that violence against women will simply not be tolerated. All of us together can create a society of equality and respect where these rights are realised and where violence against women, children and family members is unthinkable. I commend you all for being here today, for your support and for your commitment to changing the culture and narrative around domestic and family violence. Thank you for keeping the momentum, the conversations and the community engagement going to achieve real and lasting cultural change and a future where everyone is safe, heard and free of violence. A sincere thank you, everyone. May you go back to your workplaces and have those very important conversations for change and to keep that momentum going. Thank you.
Thank you, Katarina. I'll put that down to spell check on my phone. Now it's my pleasure to invite Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Hegarty from the Australian Army to the stage, after whom Jane will join us again. Thank you.
I thought I'd go brave and put the t-shirt on, ditch the jumper for a second. And I'm regretting it immediately. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute pleasure to be here this morning to support what is a very worthwhile cause. On behalf of the team from the 1st Signal Regiment, we are proud to support Challenge DV for our 6th year. And it's amazing to see this event grow year on year from strength to strength. And I think moving it to this location is testament of the support that Challenge DV has within the community. I'd like to take a few seconds to acknowledge some people. I'm going to forget some, I do apologise. I don't think I can match the list that was listed at the start. To Rob, first and foremost, mate, well done in establishing this event 9 years ago. Your continued efforts are clearly important and have driven this event to what it is today, and I hope it keeps growing moving forward. To Katrina and the team from Challenge DV, your continued efforts in making this event what it is today are absolutely amazing. And I'd also like to congratulate everyone that did the 100Ks over the course of May. Well done. Everyone today that either ran, walked, jogged, strolled, the fact you are here is a testament to your participation and your involvement in the conversation around domestic and family violence. So you are a force for change and should be proud. Getting out of bed at 5 in the morning is no mean feat. No one here would have done it for fun, so thank you for coming on and for being part of that conversation. And it is an important conversation. There have been statistics listed out this morning. 110 lives that are unnecessarily lost are absolutely preventable each and every year. And it's absolutely important that we as a community come together and be that force for change to make sure that we can reduce that number to zero, because it is reducible. I'd ask that you take the message from today into your workplaces and into your communities. You are that force for change, and our workplaces and having a fantastic culture is central to this. 2/3 of domestic violence victims are participants in the workplace. 2/3 of those that stick their hand up do so to family and friends in the first instance. Your participation today means you are central to being that support network so people can stick their hand up and ask for help. And many of us here today will indeed know someone or have a lived experience about domestic and family violence, regardless of where it sits on the spectrum of abuse. The thing I would ask you to do today is to have the courage to act. If you hear something and if you see something, have the courage to support those that need it and have the courage to stamp out this unacceptable behaviour. Hey, thanks again for participating in an amazing event today. Like I said, getting out of bed to run around South Bank at 5 a.m. is not something anyone would do for fun. So you've clearly done it because you're invested in this and you want to be part of the change. Well done, and we look forward to seeing you next year. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Colonel. Look, an event like this doesn't happen without so many people being involved, and I have a list of thank yous, and I apologise it's going to go for quite some time because there's quite a lot of people. Firstly, all of our distinguished guests today, all of our speakers, and all of you here in front of us. Thank you for sharing your powerful messages about the roles each of you play and how we can all play in ending domestic and family violence. We have incredible sponsors and partners who are committed to that, and the Army in particular has been amazing year after year helping us with all of that. But I do want to thank those of you who've helped us every step of the way, and not just today, but all through the year in the work that we do, in the programs that we run, in the education that we provide across workplaces to grow those conversations, and now the Domestic Violence Prevention Council also in growing those conversations that are so powerful. I'd like to thank our amazing host, Queensland Parliament House. What an incredible venue. Thank you so much. It's just added something incredibly extra this year, and I think everybody's acknowledged that. We'd really like to thank our founding partner, Minter Ellison. You know this is the long game. You've been there with us for over 20 years. We look forward to the next 20, and you have been an amazing support for us always. Our sponsors this year: Queensland Government, Queensland Rail, Rio Tinto, Trident Services, loans.com.au, Go One, Q Super, Unity Water. And just noting that all of those people don't just sponsor us and support us today, they do great work with us throughout the year as well. So again, thank you. To our fabulous media partners, KISS 97.3 for our fabulous warm-up there this morning, and also to Network 10 and the fabulous Jessie Baird here today as our MC. Thank you so much. To our volunteer partners, the Australian Army and the Queensland Police Service, and also for the service they provide every day, and to the amazing Queensland Police Band. You see them starting back up there, incredible support. I'd also like to thank and acknowledge DV Connect and Rosie's, who have provided support to our participants throughout the day. All throughout the year, your organisations change lives, so thank you. Thank you for the work you do, and thank you for being here for participants today. Our event partner, EMSA, this is the first time we've used an event management company to run the event, and apart from the fact that we're just so relieved to not be ticking off names and doing all of those things, your professionalism and the way the event's been run has been amazing, so thank you so much for being a partner with us. I'd also really like to take a moment now to thank the people you've probably interacted with at some point over the past couple of months, our amazing Challenge DV team. We have an incredibly small group of staff who do an awful lot of work, and they are often there after hours, logging on, doing things, and I just want to really thank them. You've all been out here early this morning. I've seen you all working out there as ushers and doing all of that sort of work, and just constantly being there for us. In particular, I want to thank my 3 executives. My executive team is amazing. Our CEO, Jackie Lackland, our Chief Operating Officer, Keith Tracy-Patty, and the immeasurable Katrina Swanston, our Chief Partnerships and Communications Officer, who has just been a whirling dervish for the last... she came on board a matter of days before Darkness to Daylight launched in May, and just didn't know what has hit her, and I don't think she's drawn breath since. So I'd like to give her a really big round of applause to my 3 executive team, please. Also, all of our volunteers for Challenge DV throughout the years, all the volunteers who are here today. Really like to thank the Domestic Violence Prevention Council, your support and partnership and stepping out with us. I think is going to be one of the strongest partnerships for us to really move this forward. So thank you. To all of our incredible participants, as everyone has said, thank you for getting out of bed. Thank you for turning up today and for being there. And all of those people in our lives need us to keep turning up for them. So thank you. Thank you for turning up. We're so very inspired by everybody here today, and that you are now all part of the Darkness to Daylight story. And I'd like to introduce Rob Reid from Minter Ellison, who is the founder of Darkness to Daylight, to tell us a bit more about the story and to help close us out with the drumming.
Thank you very much, Jane, and wow, look at this. This is absolutely incredible. Who'd have thought that a vision 9 years ago could have turned into something like this? I was saying earlier that I've choked up about 1 million times this morning just looking at the number of people, the beautiful Parliament House, hearing the bagpipes playing. It's been absolutely awesome. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting now and through which we've run this morning. Many of you will know that the idea of Darkness to Daylight came from First Nations traditions. It came from an experience I had in Japan where I ran with the American Indian movement to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the dropping of the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And it's there that I learned about running as a message, running as a symbol, so a symbolic run rather than a personal best type run, and running as a group to carry a message on foot. So a group of people can make such a difference compared to just the individual. We've come together, and no matter who you are, no matter what you do in life, you being out there in that shirt and running, every step you've taken has counted, and it will be noticed. The vision was that there would be so many people doing this run that the community couldn't help but notice, and that therefore there would be a change in mindset. Who'd have thought 9 years ago, when there was almost no one out at night time, that it would turn into this, and people are noticing, so thank you so much for that. An important part of it is the symbolism, as I said, and the symbols keep coming up every time. The kilometre per death caused, the running in the dark. Even this morning, as I said at the start of the 10-kilometre run, I got a cab over here, and the taxi driver locked the doors before I got in and asked where I was going to check that I was the person who made the booking. He said that's because last year he was assaulted by someone who got in the cab and just punched him in the face for no reason. And he was in ICU and for 4 months couldn't work. He said to me that the physical scars have healed, but the fear is still in my head and it won't go away. And I thought, wow, I told him, this is what I'm going to run for, is the people who they have that fear even before the physical scars come about. And that's because of people they love. There's enough stuff in the world that we can be afraid of without being afraid of the people who are meant to love us. And so here we are changing that. And then I was running with a guy called Steve this morning who talked about getting out of bed at 3:30 in the morning and sneaking out so he wouldn't wake up the family and coming out to run. And we thought, wow, that's who we're running for. That woman who has to get up and get out of the house at 3:30 in the morning, not so that she doesn't wake them up and cause a bit of trouble, but so that she doesn't get hurt. So the symbolism keeps coming up, and so I want to thank everyone for embracing that, for being out in numbers, so that we can really make a change. So thank you so much. And on the Sacred Run, we would start every running day with a drumming ceremony. and at the end of the day come together in a circle and finish that up with the drumming again. I was invited up to the big drum during the Sacred Run, so I have permission to do the Sacred Run drumming, and I would like to close Darkness to Daylight 2022 with the Sacred Run drumming. So this is a ceremonial, a traditional thing. It's not a performance, so there's no applause. It's part of the prayer to close out and remember why we've been running through May, through June, and this morning. So I will do the drumming now, and if we could reflect on that, that would be great. We're all feeling the cold, but my poor drum's feeling it a lot too, so it probably won't be that noisy, but we'll see how we go. So thank you again. Thank you, and thank you so much for doing this morning.
Well, thank you, Rob. I think I can speak on behalf of everyone here today when I say that was incredibly powerful and moving, and a fitting way to end this year's Darkness to Daylight. Well, thank you all so much for being part of this special occasion this morning and for supporting our shared mission to end domestic and family violence once and for all. Just a reminder, if you haven't finished your fundraising yet, there is still time. Donations close on the 1st of July, and remember that every dollar raised goes towards domestic and family violence prevention programs. Everyone who supports this year's event can also enter into the draw to win one of 4 dining experiences right here at Parliament House. Now, on that note, we will close the 9th Darkness to Daylight Challenge with a special performance by the Queensland Police Pipes and Drums. I look forward to seeing you all back here again next year. Thanks very much.